This is the XNC Podcast, your Xbox newscast featuring Colteastwood, hosting industry interviews and gaming talk live on YouTube every Monday night at 5 p.m. West Coast and 8 p.m. East Coast. For all of you listening around the world, the XNC Podcast is available on demand on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. Welcome to the show. Join the chat, hit the like button, and let's get into this week's topics with Colteastwood's Xbox Newscast.
All right, welcome to the show. This is the Xbox Newscast podcast, and that little intro was brought to you courtesy of my coworker, Steve Lee, who's a professional voiceover artist, like a guy I aspire to be, and I gave him copy, as they call it, and I said, hey, can you do this promo for me? And he knocked that thing out in a couple minutes, so it's pretty cool to hear his voice, but kind of gives people a chance. I've been listening to this podcast on audio versions on Spotify to kind of see how everything's working. So thought it'd be nice for people who are listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify or Pocket Podcasts to know what's going on as they listen to the earbuds. But that is nothing compared to what I have here with me today. I have Asa and Gaz from Game On Daily joining Xbox Newscast all the way from the United Kingdom late into the night on a full moon. Welcome, Asa and Gaz. How are you tonight?
So good. Normally at this kind of time, normally 1 a.m. on a Monday, I'm just loitering in your chat, watching your show anyway. I've watched the 10 episodes. It's fantastic to see your progress. So normally I do cut a little bit early, but I'm going to try and stay for the whole thing today.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to, right? Yeah. Yeah, and so you know, guys, that these people I've had on the show, like Asa and Gaz, are real true friends, and they've been a really big driving force behind me starting the show, helped me with technical and emotional support as I take the helm behind the camera and the mic. And that brings me to my other guest, Gaz, the Sauce King from Game On Daily. How are you doing tonight? How's your day been? Good. Don't hold back.
Oh man, don't hold back. Okay, I'm good. I'm ready. I'm ready to swim in the sauce, man. I've had a long day. I've got myself comfortable. I'm wearing shorts. Look, I'm wearing shorts.
I'm representing Game On Daily. He's got.
I'm all ready, man. Trust me. I'm comfortable, ready to swim. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, but it doesn't feel like it. So let's do this, man.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. We were just talking backstage, right, in the green room about PAX West. You know, I'm trying to get these guys to come out to Seattle. If not this end of the year, very soon, we got to meet up. Hopefully E3 is like ready to go next year. Sounds like it is. So welcome to the show, guys. Asa, what have you been playing? What video game has been keeping you super busy and having a good time?
That's a question. I play something different every day at the moment since I started streaming live. So I've got a schedule, and that's it keeps me regimented, and it keeps me playing loads of things. This week, we're at the start of the week, so I've played a bit of Halo and a bit of Ratchet and Clank, and we'll probably leave the list at that so it doesn't go on for too long. But I'm playing the first Halo Combat Evolved, and it still blows my mind how good that game is.
Oh yeah,
nice. Are you switching back and forth? Are you switching back and forth between the two modes to kind of remember and take it all in?
Every now and again, you have to. You just see something and you go, "Oh, I don't quite remember it looking like that," and that's because it used to look like that. Both modes that you can play on the original, it still looks so crisp and so good, but it's the way it delivers its story that blows my mind. When you consider the expanded Halo universe, but the way that the game just takes its section and is incredible in itself.
It's an absolute classic. Yeah, I love playing that game. It brings me back. I played that game on PC for the first time. I didn't play it on an Xbox. I didn't have one yet. I want to give a shout out to Lethal Papa, moderator in the chat, Happy Bomb. I see True Racer, Ashtray Gaming, Ramon, Raymond G, tons of people that are joining the show. Thank you so much for checking it out. Mr. Joanna Dark. I think Mr. Joanna Dark has a super chat. He's got something to say. He says, I want to say sauce to you fine gentlemen this evening. I'm excited to have the opportunity to catch the show live. Finally, let's talk games. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know where Mr. Joanna Dark is from, but, you know, sometimes people are working this late in the evening. I get to know a lot of people that are on the other side of the planet, on the dark side of the planet right now. So thank you so much for showing up. Gaz, what have you been playing? I already know what you've been playing. I've talked to you about it, but tell them what you've been doing on the gaming side.
Every time we play, you're always in party chat with me. Just I'm graced with your soothing voice in my ears. But yeah, no, I've been playing Doom Eternal and playing it on Colin Moriarty. You'll be happy. Not on easy. Yeah, I'll be playing it on just below Nightmare, so I can then eventually play on Nightmare. Doom Eternal, if you haven't played it, I'm biased because I love id Software. I'll rate that number 1 studio for me because I loved Quake. But Doom Eternal, the DLC, I just played it. When I first played Doom Eternal, I finished in one sitting. DLC Part 1 did it near enough one sitting. 2 almost the same as well. It's an incredible game. I just love that game. So I've been playing that, jumping into Apex Legends as well. You know, I'm actually addicted to that. It's like crack cocaine to me. So that game is amazing. But as I'm moving house, so then I'm primarily playing on PC now, but I'm moving to Xbox as my primary gaming device. I've been waiting for ages, just waiting for the right studio setup I'm going to be revealing. But yeah, I've been, I'm just loving Doom, man. The game is dank.
It looks so good, doesn't it? And it just, oh my gosh, you're playing on PC because that's how you are right now until you're like you said, you get your setup. But yeah, there's been some arguments while we're on Party Chat. We've had Dealer in Party Chat. We've had Zocker87. We have like Zocker and Gaz who are like playing on PC a lot and playing on Xbox. And then Dealer and I who only play on Xbox. And then the fighting happens like, oh, you PCMR guys. Yeah, the game doesn't look any better. And then we start insulting each other. And thankfully Asa isn't there because Asa, you would correct us and start knocking the 2 heads of coconuts together if you heard that conversation.
No, not at all. I step back and let it go. So that's what I'm there for, it's the entertainment.
Shout out to Underachiever in the chat. He says Doom's amazing. It's very challenging, though. Yeah, you know what? Let's jump into that topic since we're talking about challenges. Because if you play Doom Eternal on easy, are you a gaming wimp? How did this all start? We'll start with Gaz and we'll roll into Asa because Gaz kind of brought it up. What's going on with this? You got to be MLG at all times.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I kind of this came from Colin Moriarty's tweet, where he kind of called out a journalist who said that she never plays a game on anything but easy. She's a reviewer, right? And she said it with her chest out there. It's like, I never and I will refuse to do that. And you know that kind of wound people up a lot wrong way, but particularly Colin Moriarty is quite outspoken anyway. And he came from a position that I think was a bit too strong. And I think I retweeted this and I made a comment on it saying, look, whilst I essentially agree that as a point of reviews, for a reviewer, you should, at least disclose what difficulty you're playing this at. If you're not playing it easy, because that can have massive gameplay ramifications. If you're reviewing a game, the presumption is that the average gamer plays it on normal, not easy. So your review may be hampered by the fact that you're playing on an easier game mode. Colin Moriarty, in my opinion, went a little bit too far and said the review was useless, and they don't like video games. Like, a video game is more than its gaming difficulty. So take that. I get it. Gameplay and difficulty are intrinsically linked, but he went a bit too far with it. But I do agree with him on the point of a game reviewer. You need to, at the very least, disclose it. If you're playing on hard, you're playing on normal and easy, especially easy. I think you're a bit of an outlier there. But I think people went a little bit hard with it. I forgot the lady's name. She went really hard at it. And I can't, if you're going to do that, you should anticipate some blowback, the way the industry is. Some people are really like elitist and like, sack your job. And that's just stupid, but there's some nuance there.
What if she says, this game reviewer says, I played this game and it was boring and the enemies weren't very creative. Yeah, but what she's not saying is I play all my games on easy and review.
Yeah, I mean, look, come on. If gameplay is really important. I mean, when Game on Daily was really low, it was like not an aggregation site, and we were just a review site. One of my friends, shout out to Dave, he did a review on Metal Gear Solid, and he didn't actually complete it. And I only found out after the fact that he posted his review. I'm like, wait, hold on, you didn't complete that? I was a little bit annoyed with him because I said, just let me know you've completed it, because that's really important. That's a prerequisite to completing your review. And then he's like, yeah, you're right. Because actually, once he completed it, he changed his mind about the score. So I was like, oh, that's a defective review we've just published. no one cared about our reviews back then anyway, so it's fine, no damage done. But the same principle applies to the difficulty, in my opinion, and I think that's a problem. In terms of game reviews, as a gamer, though, you don't feel ashamed you play on easy. There was one compatibility mode that made games easy for people, and some people were like, oh, why play the game then? Well, people play games for a multitude of different reasons: to enjoy the story, the visuals, to go on the adventure. For them, it's not just the gameplay loop. So some reason, as always with these things, there's a middle ground to strive for. But that's a very non-saucy take there. But I'm allowed to be sensible once in a while, I think. But Asa is the arbiter in deciding whether I'm not.
Yeah, what's your take on this, Asa?
So, for me, I actually think it's really important that you get a broad, diverse range of people and voices reviewing games, because that's the audience. It's a broad and diverse range of people that are going to be playing these games. So if you're a reviewer that's, I don't know, only got one arm, your review is going to be the most important review to anybody playing with one arm, right?
Yeah.
So if you're playing games on easy, I think obviously it's really important that it is disclosed that the people that are looking for these reviews, exactly like Gaz said, if you're looking for these reviews, you know the angle that the reviewer is looking at the game from, because there are a ton of games that strip back mechanics, things like that, when you play on an easy difficulty. So it's not a complete review. You can't tell people. I played through even something like a big game like The Last of Us. Okay, I played The Last of Us, the first one I'm talking about, and I found the AI fairly poor in that game, despite all of the raving around it. But I was playing on a proper difficulty. If I played it on easy, I would be in no position to make any judgment on how the AI behaves, because it should be different on easy. So it's really, really important. My dad plays games on easy. I want him to be able to find a reviewer and say, yeah, that person, their opinion matters to me. That's how I'm going to play the game. It makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, Yeah, I see what you're saying about reviewers. There is another side to it too, right, Asa? Like, you've looked at this for reviewers, and then you've looked at it for regular, like anybody, like to say if you don't play on a harder difficulty or past normal, you're not a real gamer. Like, what's your opinion on? We hear that a lot. What's your opinion on that?
Real gamer. What a funny title, right? If you play games, you're a gamer. There is definitely like a core audience that have different tastes, and that's quite interesting. So we'll come into that later when we start talking about what Microsoft are doing with their studios and things anyway. But no, if you play games, then you're a gamer. Okay, if you're sitting on a mobile playing your gem matching stuff, maybe you don't have the same taste as what we consider our kind of core circles of gamers, but you're playing games. Those companies that are selling games, they want your money. You count. You're in there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know a couple of people who have different abilities or different challenges that would make gaming the way that I would, or the way that, well, I mean, Gaz pretends like he's great. I guess he thinks he's the master at Apex. But there's people with different challenges, sight difference, hearing, motor skills, or it's funny when you say you're not a real gamer, but if I put my daughter in front of a game, or my son, I want them to have fun and enjoy it and get into games. I don't want them to be blockaded by the difficulty of game. I'm done. That's too difficult. So I just get tired of people using that as a bragging right. We see that with a certain subset of people. Yeah. But Hugh in the chat says, any concerns around Tencent and their Chinese sanctions and their acquisitions? Hugh, we will get into that in just a little bit. Moby says, Colt, Gaz, Asa, love the show. Let's get saucy. I love it. And still wreaking havoc. That's a great name. Says, playing State of Decay, probably playing State of Decay 2, on the hardest difficulty with friends is so much fun and nerve-wracking. Yeah, those are games, right? You guys have played a lot of State of Decay where if you die, there's a real penalty. You're going to lose your stuff. You're going to, your character can die and you got to start over with another one. Not a lot of games do that. So, yeah, that's a good one. Ash to Ashes says, reviewers should start at normal. And I'm going to say I agree. I don't know if you guys want to raise your hand on that one. It seems weird to ask. But like Gaz said earlier, the majority or the average gamer that is watching or reading a review is probably going to be playing at normal. So if reviewers can start at normal, then Ash to Ashes says, if the difficulty is too much, then you could turn it down to easy and then mention the difficulty curve in the review. I kind of paraphrased a word there, but very, very great take, I think. What do you think of that one, Asa? You think that's doable?
It's
transparency.
Yeah, it's reasonable. I just transparency is really important for it. That's what we were saying earlier. Like, you've got to disclose how you're playing it. I guess if you are looking to build up a regular audience, you'd probably get sick to death of writing in every single review like, I played it on this difficulty. Like, at some point you get to know a reviewer, right? But a broad spectrum of opinions, it matters. Especially gaming's growing, it's going to continue to grow. This core audience, and there is definitely, it's almost a separate hobby, like keeping on top of gaming news. There's a core audience of people that want to know everything that's coming, like,
yeah.
And maybe those people do have like, there's a correlation between what difficulty that they would play on, but you don't just, there's a massive audience of people to write reviews for beyond us. They just
yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and there is that core that wants to use as bragging rights. And I would suppose if you were reviewing the Doom Eternal DLC, which is a bit tougher than the campaign, if as a reviewer, if you said it got so difficult, I wasn't enjoying it, so I moved it down to difficulty level and I got more enjoyment, like, that statement applies to certain reviews, but not to every review. So I think that's really good that you guys both said that, as well as Ashes to Ashes, that if it comes into the equation of the review, then be transparent and say, I had to play this game on an easier setting to get the proper enjoyment. Once I did, I really, really enjoyed it. Underachiever says, I will play a game on easy depending on the game. I commend the dedication to those that play on more challenging difficulties, but I want to enjoy the game with the limited time I have to game. And Underachiever nails it, because gaming is about the developer making something amazing and the customer enjoying that game, hopefully the way that they want. So I think that's another great take too. So there's the controversy for game difficulty is kind of, that just boils down to right there. If you see that, just remind people, don't be a poo-poo head.
Yeah, don't be that. And underachiever, you know what? One day I hope you will become a real gamer.
Oh my gosh. It's horrible. Faisal Ashan says, great guests again, Colt. Some people play for the story, others play for the challenge. Regardless, just enjoy the game. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is, this is a very controversial topic, but we are going to have a good time with it. And I'm going to lead off with my man Asa, who is the king of objectivity and research and knowing stuff by actually learning. That's why we like Asa so much. We're going to talk about the controversy of game preservation. I don't know if I need to set it up or if Asa could just kind of get going, but right now, Xbox is doing more to preserve gaming than any other console platform. Obviously, PC can do it by nature. But as a console platform, Xbox is leading the charge, but some people in the industry do not agree. Asa, take us into this controversy.
Oh, that's such a leading way to introduce it. Now I've got to say, I mean, do you know, XNC, load of Xbox fans. I say Phil Spencer, we say, hey, right? So Spencer has said some things about game preservation. And I will say off the bat, I think he's entirely sincere and genuine when he says that he cares about game preservation and he cares about the history of these games and he wants to see that actioned. But game preservation, there's kind of two different lenses that you have to look through when you're talking about game preservation. And the history of games is the bit where I can see Phil's passion instantly. He's like, I want to preserve that. I want everyone to be able to play their old stuff. I want to bring it forwards. I want to make it backward compatible. I want it to play better than ever, right? Definitely. But Phil Spencer has to also remember, when you're talking about games preservation, he's in a position now where he's also making history. So you could argue that actually his job, if he wants to talk about games preservation, should be more focused on the games that they're producing right now to make sure that in 10, 20 years' time, those are accessible. I will also say, for me, kind of the biggest enemy of game preservation is online functionality, right?
Yes.
And at the same time, for me personally, I love online functionality. For me, it's more important what's going on with Gaz. We'll come back to that in a second. For me, I think online functionality and pushing technology and seeing what you can achieve and making games better is, to me, more important than making sure that I can still play those games in 20 years' time. That might be slightly controversial. There's probably some people that, I don't know, insist that everything works offline in the way that you always hear. But for me, no, I want to see Crackdown 3 the way that it was supposed to be.
Oh,
You know?
yeah.
I want to see those promises realized.
Asa, you play a lot on PC. I would assume that Steam is one of your main go-tos when you load up a gaming site or a gaming platform, right? Is Steam the one that first one that you go to? So if you load up Steam, if your internet is out for the afternoon, can you load up Steam and play your games?
Yeah, Steam does have an offline mode. It's similar to the consoles in that you have to set which machines are going to work offline.
Okay, so it won't ask for authorization as you load up one of your games you bought from Steam. So this is also kind of a thing with Xbox where there's this. A lot of people think that every game has to be connected to the internet, and the console is really dependent on being plugged in. But one of the big controversies right now that people can't get over, I don't know if Gaz has got his ear heads or his headphones working yet, but we'll see. Is that if you can't buy a brand new Xbox Series X, he gave me the thumbs up, and plug it in without the internet. Like, that's the problem. Gaz, you with us? Are you back?
Yeah, sorry. The audio started playing, and I didn't know where, and I was like, "Oh, you're gonna be." Oh, yeah, I saw it out.
Oh, that drives me crazy when that happens. When a tab of YouTube's playing, and then you're like, "Well, I hear myself again." So what's going on? Like, you can't buy a brand new Xbox Series X and bring it home without plugging it into Wi-Fi or your internet. Gaz, have you looked into this?
Yeah, I have, and I'm gonna look. You know what? To me, and this is going to sound really saucy, but I think it just reeks of just gagging for attention. Because one of these game preservation activists, after Phil Spencer's inaccurate PR statements, they're no longer going to be reporting on Xbox games. Why? How is that a reason to stop your so-called righteous little cause there? There may be some sincerity there at the cursory glance, but when I see how these channels conduct themselves, or how they're retweeting and liking the personalities that they're relying on, the facade to me just cracks very quickly, and it reveals their agendas. And I'm not one to fall for that BS. If you want to swim in the source, you do so openly. Just drop this pretense and don't try and fool people. And I saw this with the hashtag Forever Physical movement, which at its core is really good. It's something that limited run games do, which is great, but that movement was hijacked by, I'm sorry to say it, but Sony fanboys, because they were so insecure about the momentum and success of Xbox Game Pass that they were calling for it to be cancelled. And when I called them out for it, oh man, the offending people there were a couple of offending personalities that I quoted and put in this video, my source video. The guy goes on Twitter and says he took the bait, hurrah, like desperate for attention. I mean, how stupid do you have to be to tweet that out? So you're so short-sighted that you forgot that you were pretending to care, and that's the kind of vibe I'm getting with this. And you should have seen the sheer number of fake alt accounts that were feigning outrage, and they were like, "You delete your video? You think I'm going to delete my video? Please, those tears feed me. I'm not falling for it." I'm not falling. Yes, the mandatory sign-in is an issue, but if my cousin in Pakistan, in some remote village in Pakistan, can play games online, which he predominantly does, then your so-called crocodile tears are at odds with the real world. So, one of the accounts said, one of these activist accounts said, it may not be an issue in 10 years. No, it may not be an issue now, but in 10 years it may be one. Why? Where's the internet going? What calamity are you foreseeing?
Well, it's weird because they're saying, like, you buy a game, an Xbox game. It's like, it could even be a multi-plat, but they're saying that if for some reason the Xbox Live servers are gone in 10 or 15 years, that you won't be able to take an old console and blow the dust off of it and plug it in to the wall and play. And I always tell people, I feel like I'm trying to defend the preservation. And the reason why I defend the preservation is Xbox is doing more than any other platform. PlayStation has not brought your PS1, PS2, or PS3 games up to your PS4 or PS5. That is totally cut off, and it's hidden behind a paywall on PSNow. Yeah. PlayStation has a setup to entitle your games. An entitlement is what they call it. An entitlement where it knows you own Borderlands 2 on your PS3 version of Borderlands 2. It knows you own that via PlayStation Plus, but they don't let you play it on PSNow, where they could just gatekeep that and just say, hey, we know you've bought these digital games, or you own the disc, or you got this on PS Plus, so we're going to give you access and backward compatibility. So that's a whole mess. Xbox has Xbox Original 360, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X games, all playable. A certain amount of the ones that they've been able to do. But here's the problem, guys, is that this account that was all about game preservation and we're going to save the world, they're upset that you have to download an online patch to play a back-compat game, which would not exist if the internet wasn't around to push you the new emulated version over the internet. And I think that it's so weird to say, what's an analogy I can say? It's like, I don't know, but they saved one thing, but you have to connect to the internet to do it. But on the PlayStation, those games are completely cut off from you that you've already paid for. So that's their problem. Another, I'm going off here.
Let me just one little thing on that though. So I actually think the concern or the criticism about having to do an online setup for the series consoles is a valid concern. It's not a personal concern because, like I say, I don't really go back and play old stuff like that. But it is a valid concern. That is something that seems a little unnecessary. Like it might shore up the security, make sure everyone's on the same software level and all the rest of it, but it is something that probably shouldn't be there for the sake of preservation if you care that much about it. It is a legitimate concern, no matter how certain people are going to feed on it and blow it up and make more of a problem than it is. Yeah, it's going to be weaponized. But I will also say the obvious thing you've already touched on is that what Xbox do with backward compatibility, playing Halo on the Series X, it's incredible, right? It's so good. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying this as a PC gamer. It's amazing what they're doing on these consoles, especially with the frame rate boosting that they're doing at the moment.
Yes.
The only weak point at the moment is there's a 3 or 4 year period where the Xbox One came out, where I hope that they're working on that and giving that a little bit of care and attention. That's the only weakness in backward compatibility right now.
Yeah, so you can't. Their biggest hang up is that you have to connect the internet on the initial time you get a console or if you reset it. So I've had quite a few discussions with people, and a lot of PlayStation guys are really upset about this, and some Xbox people. And what they tell me is, I want to be able to plug in my console without the internet and play my games. And I always say, why? How? Like, I understand if you don't have access to internet, you're really limited in modern gaming to what's available to you. But why would you want to bring home a brand new $400 or $500 console and not plug it in and fetch your online profile? Like, to grab the Colteastwood profile off of the internet, off of the server, and have access to your saves, or just have, otherwise, like, if you want to bring it in and never plug it into the internet because for some reason that's so important to you that you're not connected to the internet with a modern console, what are you going to do? Play as guest one for like the rest of the generation? I don't understand. But I also do understand, I have a sensitivity for people that I've talked to on social media that live in an area where internet is not reliable, or it's too expensive, or they live in an outskirt where they don't have access to internet. But if you're buying a $500 console, the chances are you probably have a 3G or 4G mobile smartphone that you could hotspot to get the day one patch that comes in every month.
For those people, there's Xbox 360.
No, don't do it.
Don't bring Patrick back. What's wrong with you? Shout out to Paris in the chat, by the way. He says,
yes.
Look, he says, don't engage in negativity. Paris, I love swimming in the sauce. Right.
He was talking exactly to you, my friend.
Yeah.
Exactly to you. I mean, I'm not reading the room. I don't know how much this, I assume if you're mostly an Xbox fan, you're not bothered by this hang up. And it really does seem like Phil's done more for game preservation. Do they need to fix the day one online connection? I guess. But I know every month Xbox has a dashboard update, just about every month. That's not just an update saying like, oh, now you can snap this to your friends or whatever. There's security stuff that runs behind the background. So I don't know. That's the game.
I would also say I trust them to end of life it properly. So like right now it's still a current product, and connecting it to the internet is fair and reasonable, right? When it's not supported anymore, they can stop that being a requirement. Like one last patch, there you go. Now they work properly. That's not a big deal. And so long as someone going in the right direction, like Phil, is still in charge in those days, and there's no like catastrophes, and Microsoft don't totally go off the rails, then they will end of life it properly, and it won't be a problem. So.
Yeah.
Yes, Jez Corden of Windows Central said, if you guys think that Xbox Live is going away or shutting down in the next 10 years, you're severely mistaken. We're looking at a time when this platform is absolutely blowing up. And it's speaking of blowing up, people's tempers blew up today as they waited for a brand new reveal of Ubisoft's Splinter Cell first-person shooter. Gaz, tell our audience what was announced today by the almighty Ubisoft San Francisco studio.
Well, that was I saw some really lukewarm to almost hostile reactions to this, and I just don't understand why. So Ubisoft revealed X Defiant, which is a free to play like squad based game, PvP game, and it's like gunning for, well, obviously the online PvP Rainbow Six Siege kind of market. Realistic gunplay with personalized classes, very futuristic kind of gunplay. I thought it was good. The game is really early in development, by the way, so people don't be too quick to judge. It looks like a remnant of something you saw last gen, but the game like that will thrive on its gameplay mechanics. And they were talking about that in quite not in detail, but they specified gameplay mechanics and how tight their weapon attachments and the gunplay was. They say the gunplay is the most important thing in this game. It remains to be seen. We will be the arbiters in deciding whether or not the gunplay holds its own in such a saturated field. So and that's where the lukewarm response came in. People were like, "Oh, I wanted Splinter Cell. You've given me this." I'm like, "All right, well, okay." Look, it's free to play, but I'm not excusing the lack of Splinter Cell because I would love. I think that game's been missing for quite some time. I would love that, but let Ubisoft try this, and it looks fun to me, man. I'm not going to write this off. I'm primarily a multiplayer centric guy. What's Paris saying? He goes, "Get yourself out of the mud. Mud is good for your skin." Okay.
Oh God, give me a break.
Apparently, it's good for your skin. Look, I get the tears for Splinter Cell. This is not Splinter Cell. I think the game looks good. Stop being a downer. Play some multiplayer games. And what are you expecting from Ubisoft, man? At least they're trying something new. At least it's not another Assassin's Creed.
New? I mean, it seems like they're chasing. It's kind of like what we see when we saw Lawbreakers. We thought, oh, they're just chasing the Overwatch craze. Asa, what do you think about this? Do you think this is just a flash in the pan? This X Defiant?
I'm relieved that it's not a battle royale. I'm hoping that fad is passing. So I'll take it as a positive that it's not a battle royale game. They're trying something different. I don't know why it's necessary when Rainbow Six Siege is still so popular. I'm not sure what this adds. I know they're different in mechanics, but they're trying to play on the Tom Clancy license. How is this anything to do with Tom Clancy? But they're using, I guess, some of the agents from Rainbow Six Siege, which I have no attachment to. If they bring a game, Rainbow Six Siege was always, it started fairly weak, and by the time it got any good, it looked fantastic. It was appealing, just the way that you can see people shooting through the environment looked great, but it got to a point where it became quite hard to approach because the people that had stuck with it were really, really good.
You will not survive.
I guess a nice free-to-play new on-ramp into a game that's built off of the back of that, but with a tighter arena focus. It could end up being a good thing. My eyes are firmly on Halo Infinite and Battlefield 2042. I've got side eye on Splitgate. If anyone's played any of that recently, that's generating a nice little buzz as an arena game. I don't personally think. Come on.
No, I'm just agreeing with you. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I don't personally like Call of Duty. I don't play Call of Duty games particularly, and this is obviously taking more. It's more that angle in terms of its style, so it's probably not one that I'll care for.
Yeah.
But good luck.
It's very Call of Duty with a low time to kill. You see from the gameplay, I was like, okay, it's going for that kind of Valorant Call of Duty thing. But it could be good, man. It all depends on the gameplay loop. It's for that market.
Yeah, it's one of those things where a lot of people are chasing these really popular games that aren't. we always talk about the big single player amazing story experience, but when you look at the money being spent, it's on these other games that are service based and always online, and like those things become a bad word, but those games are the cash cows of the industry. And even like the little mobile games that none of us ever talk about or play are big cash cows because they kind of do the same, they offer the same type of experience. And as some of the games we like to play, like guys, this could be like your replacement or your side game for Apex Legends, but this isn't something that it might not be something that I like. Maybe I want something maybe more story based, more open world action adventure thing. But these games can be, I guess you can have both, but it seems like these can kind of overrun that. Hargit Chani says, XNC with the game on daily. Sauce, good job hosting Asa. Asa hosted by himself on Saturday while Gaz was gallivanting around. He said, I missed Gaz, though, for the show. Aww. And Brain Cells on Fire says, playing games on easy as a reviewer is honestly unprofessional and disingenuous. That's his take. I think that's a little rough as an opinion, but that transparency is important to us. Danny Passion Official says, great panel. He's got the hand clap. And one more we got. Faisal Ishan says, Phil talked about the industry getting together to archive games to preserve them. It got twisted into a whole back and pat needing the internet issue. I didn't look into where this all came from, but boy, did it cause a mess. So let's. This
X Defiance. Just one last thing on this Ubisoft game. If they want to challenge Call of Duty as directly as they do, I already said I'm not particularly a Call of Duty fan. I don't understand how it is the behemoth that it is. But Titanfall didn't manage to make a dent. So Ubisoft are brave having a crack at it.
That's so true.
So, I mean, you guys have watched social media. The response to X Defiant wasn't particularly very warm, I think, right? Am I right? A lot of people were mad that there's only one thing people have asked for from Ubisoft, and it's really been Splinter Cell for a while. And I think they've muted that word on social media because they're just not getting it. But there's got to be some kind of hang up there. Let's talk about the great evil Tencent buying up Sumo, the Sumo team, which includes Sumo Digital, the team that made Crackdown 3 and made Sonic Transformed All-Stars Racing and Little Big Planet 3, which did okay, and the recent Sackboy Big Adventure on PS5, which I think is an incredible game. I've been asking for Sumo Digital to take your precious Banjo-Kazooie and make it incredible like that game is. Let's start with Gaz. What's this big Chinese company up to?
It's funny you say that, a big Chinese company, because this is where there's a lot of skepticism around it. And, I do worry about Tencent. I really do. I think the reason why I worry is because there's very little transparency about Tencent's manifesto, or at least what's actually in the limelight. Because Tencent is an absolute juggernaut, man. They purchased 31 game studios last year, and yeah, like you mentioned, they created some mixed successes. Crackdown 3, it wasn't obviously great, but Sackboy, Big Adventure. I mean, Sonic Team Racing, so criminally underappreciated in my opinion.
It's fun,
yeah, and I just can't see how Tencent acquiring studios is good for us gamers. And do these, like, how's the impact? This is the big concern, really. How do these acquired studios function under the Tencent banner? Do they get the kind of autonomy they would get from Microsoft? I just don't think they would. And like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the skepticism is rooted in the fact that the company has the backing of communist China. And you may argue that our views in the West are perhaps... No, but our views in our West are perhaps skewed in a certain way because we're exposed potentially to biased reporting on it. So, they're intrinsically linked. That mistrust is linked with the fact that it's association with communist China. And, we'll have to try and view this objectively. But even if you do so, you cannot deny China's very aggressive expansion and policies, which makes it really hard to ignore. So there's that feeling of unease is connected to that. You can't deny that, rightly or wrongly. And the other thing I was going to say is, look, in this field, we get so much disclosure and discourse. We know how Sony function. We know how Nintendo function. We know how Microsoft function. They've raked them through the coals. They've gone through the motions. They've been called out in this space. They have earned their track record. And as much as you can question the substance of a lot of their PR statements, I haven't seen anything from Tencent on that field. So that's where my concern comes from. I just don't feel comfortable in Tencent gobbling up these studios. And I hope maybe I'm wrong, and then these studios get the autonomy and they produce great games. But I can't see that happening. This is why I'm really grateful that Bethesda or ZeniMax was acquired by Microsoft. I'd rather Microsoft, PlayStation, or Nintendo acquire these studios, not Tencent that gobbled up 31 companies last year. And I don't know what's going on with them.
Oh my gosh. So, Asa, do you think it's as serious as Gaz paints the picture here?
I was a little bit surprised by that, actually. I know more so America than here. I know you have a lot of kind of anti-Chinese sentiment in a lot of the reporting there, at least. So I understand why people are very skeptical of Tencent, just from what we see bleed over at that. They've been acquiring people for a long time, and they've got their fingers in everything, including like Unreal Engine, which is going to be powering most of the games that we play on both platforms. I think if they have nefarious plans, then we're screwed. so hopefully they're just playing capitalism.
What's nefarious though?
Like they could have like Hawaii or whatever. No, I don't know how you say their name, but the ones that were banned from providing 5G everywhere because they wanted to spy on everybody, right? If they've got nefarious plans along those lines, which I'm not saying they have, clarification, don't come after me. If there is anything like that going on, then it's too late. We're done for, right? I hope they're just playing capitalism and making as much money as they can, making investments that are going to give them a return. And
I mean, aren't they just looking to bring a bunch of games to the Epic Game Store? Is that like the end of the story? Hopefully. Is it much more crazy than that?
I don't think so, because then you'd think they would buy them through Epic rather than acquiring them as Tencent.
Yeah,
so I'm not sure.
Where does Tencent put most of their games then?
I don't think they have their own. They're not really a publisher as such, are they? They are a publisher in China, perhaps. They don't really publish things over here so much. They normally own fractions of things. I guess they own the whole of Sumo. I was surprised at the size of Sumo and the value of it when you consider Insomniac was $227 million or whatever it was. Sumo being like 1.3, whatever it is there.
Right, yeah, it was a big disparity there with the purchase price. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Sumo Digital is one of them. Like, there's a whole conglomerate of the Sumo industry that they paid for. So there's a lot there. Some of it's gaming related. Maybe all of it's gaming related. I don't know. Like, this is kind of a downer topic, but let's shift into. It's so funny, but let's shift into something kind of different, and hopefully my internet will be nice to me. But this weekend I had the privilege to play Double Fine's latest game, Psychonauts 2, and what I would like to do is try and play some of the footage for a second while I kind of talk about it. Hopefully everything goes right. I've been working on the internet stuff behind the background to make sure that works right, but let me get this set up like this, something like this, maybe. Nope, not that. Come on, you got it. You can do it. Come on. Whoa.
What are you doing?
What? There's a button here. Where's that button? Oh, I have to add this here. I think I add this, and then I go like this. Here we go. Oh my gosh, I'm so good at this. So this is Psychonauts 2, and hopefully it runs well on the stream. But let me turn this down just a bit. We're doing this live, like on the cuff here.
This looks nice, man.
So this is a 1080p 60 for the purpose of streaming, but Psychonauts 2 is an action platformer. It's a really quirky game that reminds me of Tim Burton's style. And like, Tim Schafer's got a really interesting way of looking at things. So what this game does is it kind of tackles mental issues, like working through emotional and mental differences with people. So there's kind of a lot of what would you call it? There's a lot of symbolism going on in the game, but a lot of hilarious jokes. So the game has a really interesting look. So what they did is Xbox gave me access to 3 main areas in save slots, and I downloaded the whole game, and they let me play through probably about a dozen hours of the game, and I only got through half of it over the weekend. But you've got like this action platform. You can punch. You have like a ranged attack. You can pick up things with telekinesis and throw them. You can burn enemies. So it's kind of got
really
all this.
Good, man.
Yeah, it's cool. It's got like this. It's got all that great feeling. You've got left bumper, right bumper attacks, and left trigger, right trigger. You have a double jump. You can hold A to float. It's got grinding like Ratchet and Clank. It's just really a surprise game, kind of coming out of this. I don't know. It's just amazing. Like we didn't expect for this, and the media's response has been really surprising to me. Just Corden of Windows Central is saying it could be his game of the year already, which I think is absolutely nuts. I think there's a grinding segment coming up here. If this is all, I'm watching it as you are, so the timing will be a bit off. But yeah, it's a really interesting little game. So
yeah, who's
oh,
there, you know? Yeah,
there we go. Yeah. So the bandwidth might be a little fluctuating here and there, but it's got some boss battles. Let me turn this down just a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit loud. Yeah. I mean, this game oozes so much style. I started playing very late, actually. Maybe this year, last year. I don't know. My memory's a complete mess after COVID. But what was I going to say? Yeah, like the game oozes style, but this is definitely a successor to that. But it looks. Tim Burton just smashes it, man, and I can't wait for the Stream Deck. I hope we talk about that. Steam Deck, sorry.
Steam Deck, yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit here.
Yeah, but this would be like perfect for like because I've got the first game. This looks really nice. I would love, look, let's be honest. This is going to be weighed up against Ratchet and Clank. Like even you mentioned it. You mentioned like the great, the rail, whatever grinding. But the and I think it's a little bit of an unfair comparison. But maybe is it? I don't know. A different studio might, but. It will definitely be weighed up against that. But if Jez Corden is very pleased about it, and I'll be honest with you, like some of the early stuff they showed, I'm like, it does not look that good. But what I've just seen here, it just looks really nice, polished, just unique. It's just oozing character. And I'm a big fan of Invader Zim, which is an incredible cartoon, and that the main guy who voices Zim is in this as well. So I'm really hyped, man. Sorry, I'm just.
Yeah, I know. It's like as Gaz takes over my little preview impressions, but I love it. No, I've talked. Sorry. Yeah, it's just here's a boss battle where you're. Let me see where we're at live. Yeah, this is a boss battle.
Tim Burton, sorry.
Oh no, I mean we're kind of referencing both, but yeah, Tim Schafer's game here. You're fighting this massive octopus that's made out of like a casino light, and. There's a funny part. I didn't get to record it, but you have telepathy. I don't know what it's called, where you can look in someone's mind. So you can walk up to any NPC and look at their mind and turn around and look at Raz, the main character, and he'll be a 2D cutout bouncing around. But he'll change depending on what mental status that the person is. Like sometimes you'll look at them and the person will just have bacon swirling around them, like all they can think about is bacon. Or you'll be a cardboard cutout of a guy you'll be Raz with a dog catcher's net, or you'll be a crazy doctor or something. So there's some side scrolling stuff. Paris in the chat says Psychonauts 2 is fantastic. I know he's been playing as well. Randall Thor 19 has been playing it, and he's really fallen in love with the game and shared his impressions on Twitter. He'll talk about it on his podcast, but it's just kind of a really cool game. And I know I give people such a hard time about Banjo, but you have to understand that I didn't play Banjo when it came out, and this is a more modern take on a platformer. Until I see a modern take of Banjo, then I'm all in. That's why I wanted somebody that's super talented. Obviously, Double Fine would have been amazing, but Tim Schafer said he didn't want to make Banjo-Kazooie. He wants to do what he's doing. So Violent Femme in the chat says, did your kids play this game at all? Did they have any opinion if they watched you play? Are my kids allowed to play this under the embargo? I actually had my son sitting with me. I have a 10-year-old son who sat with me while I played the game, and he was all smiles. So he'll be getting this game on his Game Pass account and play it. So yeah, I just think it's
I love that you didn't let him play it. You just let him watch, man.
Well, I mean, would I be in trouble if I let my 10-year-old take the controller for several minutes? Probably not. Yeah, my son played it a little bit. That's the perks of being my son, I suppose. But yeah, you can see like this platforming stuff, and it's actually fairly challenging. And it's why Tim Schafer said if you play it with invincibility mode on, you still beat the game. So I think we're actually still watching the 7 minutes of cut. I did cut a bunch of 30-second shots together and kind of put them together to give you an idea of how the game looks. It looks much sharper than this and than what I can do on the stream, but yeah, I might share that out later. But a really cool game. The game comes out in a month, and I had a conversation. Can I take a side here, guys? I was talking to Randall Thor about it, and we were trying to speculate how this game will review, and he thinks it might review up in the low to mid 80s from what he's seen. Here's a Plinko part, if you're caught up to what I'm seeing here. I think you are, where you kind of bounce down here. The game kind of changes it up in every level. There was a level I didn't get to record where you're in this cookout game show, and these game show hosts are yelling at you, and you have to grab food characters from the audience with what do you call it? Telepathy. And you hold them above your head, and you have to carry them over to a blender or a frying pan or a boiling pot, and you have to follow along with the instructions. There's a 2D character I was talking about. So this person sees you as a psycho running around. So the game just has so much charm, and the dialogue's really funny. So I wasn't expecting to really give this game too much attention, but Paris in chat says, I can see it getting an 85 from what he's played so far. And it's just really interesting if a game like this, which is made by 80 people, to score around the big bangers we're seeing coming out, like Gears 5, Spider-Man, Ratchet and Clank, like, yeah, that could be really great. So here it just it stopped the loop. I'll hit play again as I finish up. I guess I could ask the panel, guys, what do you think about what you're seeing? Let's ask Asa a gas talk for a minute.
So I normally I don't like platforming games. I'm playing Ratchet and Clank, but that's not really a platforming game. It's more gunplay. Is a bigger feature.
Yeah.
I don't normally care for them, and Psychonauts 2 was barely on my radar for that reason. But we obviously run a news aggregation website, and we're seeing all these previews coming through, and we've seen Windows Central saying this might be Game of the Year, and we've seen Games Radar saying this might be Game of the Year. And how can it not like raise an eyebrow? I'm like, oh.
Isn't that
and
interesting?
The big thing that and the big thing that might sell it to me, well, I say sell it, it's on Game Pass, right? So obviously I can play it. But the big thing that might, I don't know, get me to download it, which is a big ask, it's not. The big thing is that everyone's saying that it's really funny.
Yes, yes,
it is. That's funny, right? Right. Contrary to popular belief, I've got a sense of humor.
I love your sense of humor. Your sense of humor is so underrated. I'm not just sucking up at you because you're alive and I think I'm one of the only few people that actually understands your incredible dry sense of humor. But yeah,
that surprise factor of Asa's sense of humor is what really gets me. But yeah, this I don't know. I think it's cool. I'm glad to see this. The other interesting aspect of Psychonauts 2 is it comes out as a multiplat. It was previously set to publish on PS4. Let's talk about tech analysis. We'll lead with Asa. This game runs at 4K 60 on the Xbox Series X or above 1440p at 120 on the Series X. And the Series S, Asa, runs this game better and higher quality than the PS5. Do you know why that happened?
It's a big thing, isn't it? It's it doesn't, like so many things that we've seen over the last year, it's not really condemning the power of the PlayStation 5 at all. It's condemning Sony's poor cross-generational strategy relative to Microsoft's. Obviously, Microsoft have stepped in with a bit of extra money, and they're in the studio now, and they can pull some strings and make things happen. But that's not really the case here. This game is performing, and if you look at the performance chart that Double Fine put out about the PlayStation 5, you're right, it's 1440p, 60 frames per second, which the Series S is capable of, as well as HDR and a few other bits and pieces. But it does have a note saying that's because it's the PlayStation 4 Pro version running in backward compatibility mode. And that is not like it's not an excuse, because there's so many games doing that. That's what you've got, a 2-year advantage. This cross-generational period, the Xbox has this massive advantage. This game is 4K, 120 frames per second on the Series X with HDR, and it's clearly going to be a superior version. And it's not because Microsoft are holding things back and trying to sabotage things on Sony's side. It's because Sony have made it difficult to do dual versions of the game. So, definitely going to be playing it on the Xbox.
I saw a hardware lead for Xbox say that more than likely Double Fine doesn't have a PS5 dev kit, so they have to do back compat mode. And this is a PS4/Xbox One release. But like how you said, Asa, that the PS5 version doesn't have the best back compat solution, Xbox does have the best back compat solution. So they're getting the full Gen 9 aware, the boost, the auto HDR, this game has it all. It's going to look great. So, Gaz, you think this matters? A multi-plat like this looking far better on a Series S for $300 than a PS5?
It does. It does matter. It's purely based on what actually Asa said, that we are going to be in a cross-gen period for quite some time. So Xbox has this. It's just a significant advantage. For whatever reason, PlayStation, had forsaken its back compat or didn't take it as seriously as Xbox did. We're having this increasing, this maybe uncharacteristically long cross-gen period because of COVID or whatever. But that's a massive advantage. It's a massive advantage. You can't downplay the reasons. I'm seeing people saying, "Oh, it's only because of Sony's cross-gen, back compat is weaker." I'm like, well, yeah, that's the big reason why that's a big disadvantage. So in that sense, it is. But a game like this, will that really sully your experience? I don't think that's the spirit of the game. So I don't want to overstate the importance of it, but I'm not going to downplay the
Yeah, it still runs at 60 on the PS5. And you'll get like that full fluid feeling of the game. I should reset, guys.
But on the Xbox, not only do you get the HDR, but you don't pay for it either. So,
oh
my god!
To be really pedantic though, so this isn't so much. Microsoft have much better backward compatibility than Sony do, but this isn't the problem with Psychonauts. The problem with Psychonauts isn't the backward compatibility; it's the fact that there is no native PlayStation 5 version. So, what Microsoft do very, very well by necessity, because they're supporting all these different Xboxes and the PC platforms, is they have their SDK that covers all of them. So if you're making Psychonauts, you are making it for all of those platforms by default. And that's not the case within Sony's development environment. So you have to essentially make that two versions of the game if you're doing it for the PlayStation 5 as well. And like you said there, it could well be that they don't have a dev kit. Sony might have said, not sure about giving it to you now that you're owned by Microsoft. Like, we might want to keep these secrets. It could be something as silly as that. But
yeah. Okay.
What?
All right. Yeah, I guess that's going to be okay. So yeah, this guy, I don't know if you were alluding to, Asa, if you were alluding to that the game is $60 for PlayStation fans, but you have the option to play it for nearly free because of Game Pass, or it's just a better version, and that's okay. But I should reset. This is the XNC podcast. We've got over 900 people watching live right now with my good friends from Game On Daily, Gaz and Asa. We'll use those two names instead of their full names and social security numbers. We'll do that another time. But we welcome them to the show. If you're here, if you're listening live on YouTube, please hit the like button and share it out. We are also on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and other podcasts, 7 podcast platforms actually, that go up for on-demand, audio-only podcast listening to check out the show. That goes on demand after the show is done. So thank you all to support. I think I've got about 25,000 watches or listens on podcast platforms outside of YouTube since I've done the show. This is podcast episode number 11. So hit the like button. Thank you so much. I'm going to get into a couple of super chats as we move on to the next subject. This is a pretty crazy show. This is my first time showing gameplay as I got to kind of try to unkink the internet cord. It's been quite a challenge. Will Kinsey says, "Is it acquisition season or not? My Twitter usage is affecting my workflow." Yeah, I've checked Twitter when I've been in a work meeting. I'm like, oh, no, stop that. But yes. I just heard from Nick from Xbox Era saying that acquisition season is not specific to just Xbox. And we just heard about Tencent. We heard about PlayStation buying their PC port studio, as it were. So when are we going to hear about Xbox? Gaz, what's your take on Xbox's next acquisition? What's your prediction?
An insider told me it's happening yesterday. I don't know, man. You know what? I'm so tired of this. No, there's no shade at you, Nick. We're in party chat almost every day with my good friend Carlos. Shout out to him. But I'm just so I don't. I've given just before E3. I fell in the source with you guys. Oh, Avalanche is happening. Oh, this is happening. I believed it, and now it didn't happen. And I know there's a multitude of different reasons it might not happen. I'm not gonna guess. What's the point? It's gonna be Capcom. No, I don't know, man. I've tried this. This is just guessing at this point. it's bound to happen because of what Xbox have explicitly said, that they haven't stopped. We know there are gaps that Xbox want to fill in Japan. I think a Japanese studio or a studio that will help enhance Xbox's appeal in Japan or in the Far East Asia. It's really important. So that might happen. But it's just guessing on. But Game On Daily, we don't pretend to know what we don't know. No, that's not shit. That's not shit. That's not shit. That's not shit. Oh, I should have rephrased that.
Well, I'll rephrase it for you. Game On Daily likes to report on whatever is official that gets in the news feed for people to. Yeah, that would be the better way of. Yeah. That's what I've seen.
Yeah,
real quick, Asa, hold up that glass. While Gaz was talking, I felt like we were among royalty. Hold that glass up again.
What is that? Wait. No. You need to hold that up closer to the camera. What is that posh glass? What?
That is amazing.
A large glass rather than a pod glass. We don't need to do this.
That is amazing. This is the high caliber guest that I try to bring you. Somebody who drinks out of somebody's old bong from the 90s. But yeah, that's amazing. No, I'm just kidding. That's great. We've got Brandon who says, let me go up one. Ron Hale says, great panel tonight, Colt. Hey, he's talking about you two. Have any of you played MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries yet? It's on Game Pass, and it's a great play. I did try it. I got through the tutorial. I'm not sure if I'm ready to play that. Have you guys dipped your toes in, or your
I haven't yet. I'm interested
toe?
So long as it has all of the buildings falling down and things. That came out a while prior on PC, and I've been intending to try it for ages, but not quite come around to it. I just real quick on acquisition season. I don't think it applies for Microsoft. I'm not pouring water on any of the rumors. I just think that their acquisition season is whenever. I think they start all of their negotiations like with, so you're for sale. All year round. If they want someone, they want someone. If I can understand acquisition season for people that are tied to their fiscal results and things in the way that that people without Microsoft's bankroll might be more tightly bothered by, right? So Sony might have a tighter schedule for when they can spend and when they can't. But Microsoft, in the phase that they're in right now, it's constant acquisition season. They're always going to be on the lookout.
Yeah, and they don't say, we want to buy Avalanche, let's go write the check, and then we hear about it in a day later. Speaking of that, spending that money, Gaz, what happened with NPD for June? It's got some people upset. They're not happy.
So, this is why you invited me, eh? Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah. Don't hold back. Don't hold back. There is quite a mess there when we're talking about money with Xbox.
When have I ever held back? Maybe need to hold back more. So if you haven't checked the Iron Lords podcast, I love that. King David went in on this, and I loved it. And he had Hip Hop Gamer on, so it was a great going back and forth there. But Xbox led in dollar sales. Switch still managed to sell the most. I don't know what is on that console. It's like crack. But okay. The PS5 is still the fastest selling console in US history, right? So there's reigning expectations, but look, this isn't inconsequential. I've seen downplaying, upplaying on both sides. One side is saying, "Oh no, the consoles, there's constraints with silicon, so that's why PlayStation isn't sold." But that's affecting Xbox as well. I do think, in the interest of fairness, that the PlayStation is suffering a lot more than that. But not a lot more, but perhaps more. I have no insight into that. But it's quite important. This is quite important because if Xbox can consistently this is just the beginning, but if Xbox can consistently outdo PlayStation in the US so that it can reclaim the position it was in back in the 360 days, that is not insignificant. I know a lot of people have now, some people downplay the hardware sales metric in favor of software, and then they rely on Xbox Game Pass, which is a paradigm shift anyway. It has changed the game. You have to be completely blinkered to say otherwise. But hardware, I still think it's still important. I'm still, a lot of people disagree with me on that, and that's fine. But I don't think you should understate the importance of hardware sales, and that this NPD result may be an indication that there's a shifting tide in the hardware. As far as hardware is concerned, in the US, if they can consistently do that, it's over. Not over.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like when you say it matters, almost everything matters, but it's like, what is the most important, or where is the target? So here's the thing before I go to Asa about this. This was hardware sales revenue, not how many units of hardware sold. So better stated, the Xbox Series X, which is $500, the same as the PS5, and the Series S, which is $300 in North America, outsold the PlayStation, which is $400 and $500. So with a $100 per unit, what would the word be? It's cheaper. It still sold more, and everybody, you get the big PlayStation fans that are all about the console war that say, well, that's because PlayStation wasn't available and you can find Xbox Series S's everywhere. I'm like, So if you can find them everywhere and they still outsold the PS5, how in the world does that logically work? And keep in mind, now I'll go to Asa, Xbox is sending a large chunk of their hardware to the xCloud around 22 countries, and they are not targeting their hardware to North America. They are doing an even global approach because in the past, they've always focused on North America and left the rest of the world high and dry, which has led to them not having a global reach. So Asa, what is your take on Xbox winning NPD and all other console insults you're going to throw out?
Console insults? I love my consoles.
Tell me, how do you take this information?
They're selling out, right? Both of them are selling out, and that's not to downplay it because Xbox haven't done that, haven't beaten Sony in America since 2016. Is that right? A long stretch, something like that. I could be reading that wrong. I don't follow the sales.
No, you're right. Fall 2016 with the 1S. Yeah.
Ooh. So you can't. Yeah. You can downplay it and say they're both selling out, but kudos to them for manufacturing so many. I do think their global distribution is probably not as evenly spread as Sony's. So Microsoft definitely have markets that they're going to focus on more, America and the UK in particular. I'd actually be more interested to know the breakdown between Series X and Series S sales there. I don't know. Was that in the figures?
I don't think it is because those figures aren't available to anybody. So we don't know if Series S is leading the sales. But what we do know, and maybe you guys can corroborate this, is that I hear a lot of people say in the UK you can easily find a Series S. They're sitting in stores all the time. This is not the case in the United States where I am. So have you guys, do you even go to stores and look
I haven't left my house for a year. I don't know. Are the stores still open, Gaz?
Yes, I bought some underwear recently.
But isn't it weird that people don't understand when they come at these arguments, and they bring a sickle out to hit somebody and they say, you can find the Series S everywhere, but yet that console is outsold the PS5. And the funny thing, like Asa said, is that there's a supply constraint. So as soon as they come off the assembly line, they go to market and they're bought immediately. But that means like scalpers picking up a PS5, it still counts as a sale, right, Asa?
It sure does. The reason that I say the Series X and the Series S breakdown is the thing that's more interesting to me. Is I'd love to know where Microsoft's focus is between the two and where the consumer market is between the two. It's a shame we don't get that breakdown. It will be a more interesting thing to see than Xbox versus PlayStation in this instance when they're both selling out.
And we never will. But what's your guess, Asa? Which one do you think they put priority on to get out the door to retail?
Oh, that's such a hard question. Like initially, it had to be the Series X. It had to be the Series X initially because that's the early adopter.
So do you think they've changed to where they're pushing out more Series S because it's a low price
to a point where they shift? Oh,
that's a very good question.
Gaz, what do you think?
This is why I'm interested in those numbers.
I think the Series S might get priority out to retail first. As I hear Asa talk about this, Gaz, what would be your guess? Because this is pure speculation. We're never going to know. We'll never know how many digital PS5s they send out for $400. I would think very few, but so what do you think the priority is for Xbox?
This is a very good question because what's the significance of that? If, for instance, you say the Xbox has now shifted its focus to Series S, what does that actually suggest? That it's hit critical mass with the Series X core console base, and that's why it's focusing on the Series S to
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so what's that then? It's so.
Well, I mean,
if you're Microsoft, if you saw that, and I told you,
put yourself in their shoes.
S, they're focusing on the Series S now. What would you read about? Why are they focusing on Series S? What's your answer to that question? Why would they be?
Well, I would ask you, Gaz, like if you were in charge, right? If you were like, but put yourself in the shoes for a second. If you were in charge of getting those consoles out, do you think Series S is like, hey, these are cheaper, we can sell a lot more of them than we can an extra $200 Series X? Like, would you be thinking that way as a business? Like, if you owned a shop, how about that? Like, let's say you own your local kebab shop, kebab. And you've got
Key and Peele here.
Key and Peele reference. Those guys are hilarious. So if you had, if you were bringing in Xbox consoles, like, would you prioritize the X? Like, Asa, what would you do? Say the letter.
There's a point where you definitely prioritize the S if your ambition is global expansion.
Yeah.
And Game Pass, as we know that it is. So there's a point that they'll prioritize the S. Obviously, they want both on the shelves and available for everyone that wants them. Like the X is obviously their kind of flagship that they were obviously going to push initially. So there's going to be a point where that shift, like there's a shift in focus there.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if we have already reached it and the S is getting priority now. But
yeah, I was thinking that it's quite early for that to happen, but that would be really good. And also, and I think So Shady kind of alluded to that as well. There's more to this than that. If you can focus on the Series S, you'll inevitably sell more because the price point's more inviting. What you can also do is benefit from what Nintendo, in my opinion, do quite well, which is really like benefit from the scarcity principle. That whilst there's this, we can have there's definitely, maybe not quantifiable, but there is definitely a value in people in saying that the Series X is sold out, consistently sold out, because then that will garner more eagerness to get hold of that, which will have a positive boon for Series X while still simultaneously enabling you to
still getting the S's out the door.
Yeah.
Very good point. Yeah. It's kind of funny, and they'll never say the numbers, but I think this discussion right here is pretty close, right? It's not unreasonable. Brandon says, do you think the definition of a AAA game has changed in the last few years, especially with all of the great indies? What constitutes a AAA game nowadays? Asa, do you know what the definition of AAA is? A lot of people actually mix this
outrageous. There is no hard written definition of a AAA game, and I will fight you if you say there is. I won't fight you because you're a good guy. It's a term that's like taken on a life of its own. I don't even know who started it, but by some reckonings, the AAA means it's budget, quality, and scope or something. Like there is a definition that somebody was going by. Other people's standard is just like, mine's bigger than yours. Mine's 4A's. Sony make 7A games. Or whatever else it will be. I don't know. How important is that definition really, though? Unless you're trying to sell games for £70, I guess you probably do need to think about it. But
yeah, I mean, it does. The technical definition is the budget and the size of the studio. So you can't say that 343 puts out a AA game. They're just a AAA studio, and that's the budget they put in. But I think who is this? What Brandon's saying is that there's all these little games that really blow us away. Maybe they're made by 3 people. Maybe they're made by 80, like Psychonauts 2. And I guess what Ace is alluding to is sometimes we treat AAA as a quality stamp, like a stamp of quality, and say, this game is so great and it does all these things really well, production values, it's AAA. And I think what Brandon's saying is, if it's AAA to you, then I guess call it AAA to yourself. But arguments follow along when you have ratings and you throw Metacritic in there. But let's talk about Phil Spencer talking about single-player games. He said this one little statement. Everybody made videos about it. But the big takeaway is that now in the situation that Xbox is in, they're going to have more big AAA, as Brandon calls them, AAA single-player games than they've had in a long time. And if you're an Xbox fan, it's been a little dicey as far as big AAA games that Xbox has made in-house. Gaz, what is Xbox cooking? Can Phil say this? And is he being genuine when he says this? Oh, he's
definitely being genuine. If they release one good AAA single-player game, his statement is true. Because Xbox doesn't have that many.
that was so horrible.
Hey, man. Hey, facts are facts, man. Xbox has been weak as far as
over the past like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. And a lot of people have been saying, that Xbox needs that. The Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice is one of those big ones. But, to which I say it definitely needs it. It definitely needs it. Xbox has the breadth of studios. It has the numbers now to facilitate, be risky in all sorts of manners. A big AAA single player game is not actually that risky. It's almost something that people are demanding because they're in terms of optics against PlayStation, they're weighing it up, and then that's something definitely high in the Xbox checklist of we need to get this right. And they do. They absolutely do. There's this thing now. There's this almost like not culture, but I'd say a custom that's been set by PlayStation and the way the industry has unfolded. That a lot of success is gauged by how you can deliver a game, and it's kind of weird. It's like, why is this genre, this type
like
of
how it
game,
looks in presentation? You mean?
Yeah, I mean, and no, in terms of how much like a single player game and a good quality single player game commands so much respect, and how that benefits the platform's optics. And so it's a bit interesting in that sense. The devil's advocate in me says, well, Xbox doesn't need to necessarily do. They're willing to play to its strengths. Sony, on the other hand, is really desperate to try and replicate the success in the multiplayer arena, which it has done for years, and Microsoft is struggling the opposite. Both need to do
either or for sure. Gaz, I think fans, Xbox fans or PlayStation fans, demand very special treatment. So of course there's exclusives, but I think, and you've kind of alluded to this as you were talking, and it's what got me to this point, is that if Xbox says Ninja Theory is making Hellblade this massive, like top quality looking cinematic experience, it looks next level, then an Xbox fan feels like Xbox cares about what they want and is crafting them a special, full-bodied, amazing game that offers visuals, gameplay, feel, tactile, audio, everything, all that whole package. And if Xbox puts out, asks a small studio to make Battletoads, like 4 people make Battletoads, Xbox feels like, where's that experience we've been asking for a bigger thing? And like you said, play to your strengths. Xbox is in the luxury now where they can make the little games that are that hit people like in the right way, and they can make the super big games that are what people are asking for. Asa, you play all kinds of different games. Do you have emotion tied to having a big cinematic, full-bodied package of a game that's AAA?
Oh, at least 7 A's. I do play these Sony games, right? They're big signature ones. I do play them and I do like them, and it's not new for Xbox to be trying to kind of chase that. They've used Gears of War to try and chase that. Obviously, they had a crack at it with Rise as a second party. Like, they used Crytek, obviously, for that one. In terms of what they're going to be delivering now, though, Microsoft have got so many studios that they should be scattergunning every approach, right? So that's one thing that a lot of Xbox fans are looking for. Microsoft have got the studios to have a crack at it. When Gaz says it's not high risk, I kind of disagree a little in the sheer cost of those games and the traditionally kind of hostile reception that they get from the media does mean there is a certain amount of risk, because they can put in a 2,000 person effort like The Last of Us Part 2. They can invest all of that in it, and the media can say, Microsoft are trying to copy Sony, let's give them a 4 out of 10, and then it's not paid off, right?
That could happen. Yeah.
It definitely could happen. So there is some risk there, but they've got the studios, they've got the bankroll, they've got Game Pass to mitigate that risk. So if that game comes out and the media says, haha, let's stab it, people are going to play it anyway because it's on Game Pass. So
yeah,
I want to see from Microsoft a massively broad range of games. It's quite funny, actually, because at the moment, I think it's fair to say that all of the big publishers, Microsoft, Sony, and most of the big third-party ones, everything that they make, I would feel as a core gamer, pretty much everything is targeted at me personally, right?
Oh, that's nice. That's nice to hear.
Pretty much every Sony game and every Microsoft game are like, that's interesting. I'm interested in that.
Oh, that's so good to hear. Holy crap. When we live in a world where people are so negative, we have Asa from Game On Daily telling us that when he looks at the full breadth of all of these platforms making games, no matter what platform they're on, they all have something that he's excited about. That is such a refreshing take.
Well, right? Don't expose me, guys.
On the other hand,
change, right?
On the other hand, I can.
So if Microsoft want to grow, then they need to start targeting people that aren't me. So I fully expect Microsoft to announce some games that are like,
No, that's okay.
I'm the type of person, when I look out across the landscape of games that are coming, I think I don't think I'll like that. I don't think I'll buy that. I might not play that. I might give that a shot, and I'm okay. But I don't need to get on social media and say, "Don't play X Defiant. It's trash."
People are calling it trash game already, and the game's just like, what? No, okay, but that's a different topic. But yeah. Colt is deflating Gaz's balloon. I don't know what that means, Violet Femme, but okay.
Yeah, I wonder. Well, that could be back. I probably deflated your balloon years ago. But hey, Special Nick from Xbox Era says, and I saw you laughing when you read this, Gaz. He says, "Gaz, stop invading mine and Carlos's party chat." Are you doing this? Or are you just jumping in people's party chats and destroying their fun?
It's such a small world. Very quickly, Carlos is a friend of mine since 7, 8 years old. 8 years ago, and I see him party chat. He's with Special Nick. I'm like, what are you two doing together? And now I go in there. They're both Australian, so I do a really bad Australian accent, and they hate me for it. But I love them, and I do it every morning. So shout out to both of them. I love you guys.
Yeah, they're good dudes. Yodani Quidanza says, ended up in the hospital with my wife for a week. Sorry to hear that, bro. I'm talking to him a lot. He's a really cool dude. He says xCloud streaming was the real VIP on top of games to download day one using my phone to stream. I picture my man Yodani sitting next to his wife while she's suffering through in the hospital, and he's like, "Yeah, you good? You good?" Because no, I'm just joking. Yeah, shout out to her. Hopefully everything's good. I'm sure everything's going to be smoothed out, but I'm sure she was okay with you playing xCloud while you sat next to the hospital bed and ate her Jell-O that was supposed to be for her. But yeah, these people are amazing in this community. We've got Horace who says, great show, mad love. When will King David come through? I've had King David on with Gaz and the incredible Miles Dompierre, so that was an amazing show. I'd love to have him on again. I want to get some new people and fresh faces. King David is such a fun dude to be around. I've actually met him in person at E3 2019. He's like 9 feet tall. His smile is this big. He's amazing. Like I said, this is an amazing community. As we're talking about Xbox's first-party offering, Matt Booty had to step up to the plate, the head of Xbox Game Studios, and he said, we don't mandate to our studios to make games as a service, or you have to make this or you have to make that, which is a message I think the majority of the community didn't agree with before. Everyone assumed that Microsoft buys a studio and says, you will make this. Or 343, you have to make Halo, which is funny because their name is 343 Guilty Spark, which comes from Halo Combat Evolved. So if you're expecting them to make something different, they're there to make Halo. Gaz, what's the message he's trying to send here when he says that Double Fine doesn't have to go make an online, persistent, open world MMORPG?
I mean, every excuse in the arsenal of these concern trolls and fanboys is falling apart. I mean, how many express statements do you need to the contrary of what they're saying? Actions do speak louder than words, but Game Pass is something that, and Game Pass actually does suit, I think, games as a service a lot more. But the fact that there's no hard rule against that or mandate for that is comforting, and it's then up to the studios, just by virtue of the Xbox's makeup and the Game Pass existing, you might see more games as a service anyway. But but it's really comforting to know. But to the detractors out there, this is almost actually the reason why he's made this statement is only to combat a lot of the sentiment. Yeah, to squash it. So to my point to that is to all the people who are so quick to deride in at every angle. What are you going to complain about now? First they were saying, and I'm seeing this. I've seen this with my own eyes. First, Xbox was too controlling. Remember the meme? Remember that? I don't know if this is for the older peeps. Have you seen that animated little skit? So funny of Xbox exec holding Rare like on a leash and say, "You will make some rubbish like Connect games." That's it. So that was the thing. And now I'm seeing the complete opposite. Oh, you're giving too much autonomy to these studios. You need to do what... and I'm seeing it. PlayStation, they said studios out there, they help curate the article. They really care about molding it. I'm like, you're damned if you do, if you're damned if you don't. But ultimately, Matt Booty's statement is very reassuring. If you read their interview with all the multiple studios a big shout out to goes to Matt Booty. I don't think a lot of people realize how instrumental he has been in the assimilation of these studios and the settling in of these studios at Xbox. Everyone is like Sarah Bond, love her. She's at the forefront of Game Pass.
They've got a great team, yeah.
Great team there, and he is really important. Matt Booty is really important. But this is a positive sign. Will it actually result in less games as a service, though? That remains to be seen.
Okay. Asa.
Yeah.
looking at like games as a service, I think if you take a step back, games as a service games can be some of the most popular games in the landscape of what are popular or what people are playing, right? So, what do you take from this? Because
I'm glad that Gaz pointed out that back and forth on the control and the autonomy argument, because he's absolutely right. I've seen that go back and forth so many times.
Yeah,
many times. Like, the whole problem with Microsoft is they're overbearing on their studios and they're making them do things they don't want to do, and it's a disaster. Whereas Sony let their studios do whatever the hell they want, and it's the best games ever. And then you start to learn that the reality is that actually Sony have quite tight control of their studios.
Yeah.
They do, and for good result too. In my opinion,
for good result.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you start to hear the arguments like, the whole problem is that Microsoft give these studios too much autonomy and they don't know what they're doing and they make these terrible games. And it's like, what's the right answer for you people? Microsoft are supporting their studios. That's the right answer, isn't it? You want to support creativity and try and build things up. And if they don't all work, they don't all work. In terms of games as a service, Microsoft are very good at it and always have been since the inception of Xbox Live, right? It's their strength and they should play to it. That's not to say
that's a good point.
So they should disregard other kinds of games. But like as we're saying, Sony don't have those kinds of games. They've got lots of single-player games. They need to try and get into what Microsoft are good at. You don't very often hear the argument that way round for some reason, but it's just as valid.
It's kind of lopsided, isn't it? Because like we scoffed at Sea of Thieves when it first came out, but now it's this cash cow of this. People are really happy and continuing to play it because it offers content that keeps coming. And there's this bad word around games as a service that you have to just keep paying and keep paying. Not the case with some games.
Why is there this snobbery in favor against multiplayer games? Because that's what it actually is against single player games, and that really annoys me.
Well, Gaz, don't you think that people feel like it threatens the opportunity for single player games? If the multiplayer games are so popular that that's where all the money goes, then eventually studios will go, well, there's not really money. Because there was that conversation where I think it was Sean Layden from PlayStation said AAA games aren't sustainable. Phil has also said AAA games weren't sustainable. You pick and choose which one you're going to put on a magnifying glass for that. But do you think, Gaz, that people feel threatened that a big game like Apex Legends gets so popular from 2018, 2019 on that Respawn won't make a single player game? They did, but is that why?
I think there's room to be a little bit concerned there. Like, are we going to see GTA 6 anytime soon because there's these sharp cards that these things are generating money? I think a big reason why Battlefield actually is mimicking a lot of what Apex Legends doing with its battle passes. And it's the way its price point is because actually of Apex Legends, which you might say that's a free-to-play game, but Apex has generated a lot, partly thanks to me, but a lot of money. They made billions. They made billions. Made billions on microtransactions and loot boxes. Apex Legends, which isn't even the biggest BR game, it's madly successful. So there definitely is a threat in the interest of balance there. There's not a threat, but I can understand the concern, but I still think it's completely lopsided in terms of the manner in which we invite or perceive single-player games and multiplayer games. I'm a multiplayer guy. I know. That's not said to play. It really annoys me how people view multiplayer as a lesser of the two.
Which was a bigger game, Asa? Apex Legends by Respawn or Jedi Fallen Order?
Oh yeah, that's a no-brainer, isn't it? It's definitely Apex Legends.
And they're both amazing. They're both like people love them.
But Jedi Fallen Order was far from a flop, right? Obviously, it's got the Star Wars IP behind it, so it had everything going for it. But
it's like one of the best Star Wars
in general.
games,
yeah, the concerns in general, though, about the budget of these single-player games and how sustainable it is. I remember Cliff Blazinski was talking about this back around the time that Gears of War 2 launched, saying that like, this isn't sustainable. These budgets are getting too high.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work forever. And you see that manifest, and it's true, and he was right, and it doesn't work. For me, single-player games with these expanding budgets, even the big ones like The Last of Us Part 2, right? They're too long. I love those games, but I don't need them to be that long. Most single-player games are. So for me, games, part of the problem is that, I mean, it's less so Microsoft at the moment, because fortunately they're embracing loads of different pricing models. But if you're Sony and you're saying your game's got to be worth £70, then you've got a problem in what you're delivering.
You got to add a few more hours of. Yeah,
you've got to add those hours. You've got to keep pumping that budget up. You've got to hit a certain target. Whereas if you've got a bit more flexibility there, which is something I've always believed should be the case for game pricing anyway, there shouldn't be this is the price first, let's build the game to it. There should be, let's build a game and then price it. And Microsoft, in a roundabout way, are solving that with Game Pass. So you'll see a lot of the games going on there aren't charged at that recommended retail price. It's less important for them now. What's important for them now is content for Game Pass that people are going to consume. And that can be multiplayer online stuff with microtransactions, but it can be succinct, single-player, story-driven, high-quality cinematic games as well. And we had there was that massive conversation around Days Gone, where David Jaffe had the developer of it, and he was like, "Oh, you had to pay full price for games, or you're an arse," or whatever he said. And it didn't go down well. And the messaging was terrible. And you feel for him a little bit because he wants his game to do well, but you can't tell people that they're the problem for not paying enough for it. and the correct answer is what Microsoft are doing. You support more models for paying and delivering games. So hopefully we're going to see great things.
Yeah, you increase accessibility to games for people. Yeah, that's oh my gosh, that's crazy, because when you really think about it, single player games are doing really well, and games as service games are doing really well. So I think gaming is getting so big right now. Really, you shouldn't have to worry. I don't think there's as much risk, but I'm not running a multi-million-dollar studio. But when I look at all the games, there's so many games that most of them don't flop. It's very rare that a game flops. I guess Biomutant came out and kind of flopped, and maybe that one didn't make up the money. And that's an open world game. But I just think about all the games that come out, and I buy what I buy. Gaming's bigger than ever, and it's making a lot of money. So there should be room for all of that, right?
I think Game Pass is making that room, and so as I get older, I've said this before, I'm starting to veer towards indie games more, because I love the artistic style, the risks they take. And what I really love is, this a symptom of Game Pass actually, is the fact that indies are being enjoyed so much more regularly that they're actually cropping up in conversation normally, when there was almost like a sense of shame like with them, whereas with Xbox is inviting natural, healthy, unforced conversations on things like Narita Boy, things like Song of Iron. I can't wait for that. Everyone's really hyped for it. You think it's a big AAA game? It's made by one guy, Joe Winter, who managed. We lovely gentleman. We have had the pleasure of interviewing. But
yes, let me pause you right there. Gaz and Asa from Game On Daily, they run a live interview show with industry people and influencers, a lot like this show. I mean, this show is a wannabe of Game On Daily, but they run a great show, and you will have Song of Iron developer. You had him on, right?
You had him on.
You had him on. So yeah, go check that out. And I'm sure I'll have a link to their channel when this goes up. But go follow and subscribe to these guys. They've had on some amazing people. They have great conversation like we're having right now. They've had these developers on for small indie studios, and it's been amazing to see this kind of connection between fans and the people that make the games that become fans of those games. Hargit Chani says the cross-gen is longer now because there is a huge leap from last gen. There isn't a huge leap. The biggest leap right now is frame rate, thankfully. So last gen games aren't far off from new gen games. We're seeing that like right now when Psychonauts 2 comes out, it will look great on a PS4 Pro, and it'll look great on a PS5. So, yeah, that's good too. I've got Michael, a.k.a. Bedstoy Finest says, Xbox deserves all the respect on credit where they're getting right. Great job. Feels the future is bright. Also, Series X will bring the heat this gen, which I think we're seeing. One more I'll read and we'll get on the next topic is Devario2 Gaming says, off topic, will Deathloop be in Game Pass Ultimate? Sorry, I was late to the show. Hey, you're here. That's good. That was a while ago when we said that, but Deathloop will be... That's what people are asking, is if it's going to come out in PS5 and it'll pop up in Game Pass PC. My answer is no. Sony has got the exclusivity rights. So will that game be on Steam, Asa? Because it's supposed to be on PC. It'll be on PC and PlayStation 5. Will it launch on Steam?
Unless Bethesda already signed a deal with Epic, which isn't unheard of. As far as I know, everything that Microsoft owns comes out on Steam, doesn't it? Just on your point that games don't really flop anymore, these big ones. There's someone at Square Enix just crying into his Captain America hat at the moment. But his minus $63 million.
I was trying to be nice, Asa.
Asa's ruthless, man.
Yeah, I mean... I try not to be super negative, but when that game comes up, when you talk about Avengers, I'm like, and then Guardians of the Galaxy looks very similar. I hope it's better. It looks very cool. Let's talk about, you were talking about these indies that really surprise and shock people. Double Fine's kind of almost like an indie with Psychonauts 2, but they've got a little extra little backing and sauce going on there. I actually heard behind the scenes that Xbox asked them to go back and kind of retool the game. That was what the year delay was. And we're seeing that quality, which we talked about earlier. But have you guys talked about Death's Door, the little crow isometric, like beat 'em up and crazy little indie game? Do you know what I'm talking about? Death's Door?
Absolutely, yeah. Not just that, there's three on the radar for Xbox fans at the moment.
Let's hear about them.
Of the isometric like action RPG games, essentially. You've got Death's Door any minute now. It comes out tomorrow, right? That looks fantastic, and people previewing that are saying that's well worth a look. You've also got The Ascent, another isometric one that everybody here probably already knows about, looking fantastic, cyberpunk setting. End of the month. And then a couple of weeks after that, you've got Hades, which is a known entity because quite a lot of people have already played it. It was a close run thing for Game of the Year last year. So there's 3 isometric RPGs right on the horizon. If you step outside of Xbox systems as well, there's Tribes of Midgard on the PlayStation and the PC to take it up to 4.
Oh, really?
That's a 10-player co-op thing that also looks good. But if you're a fan of the isometric action RPGs, you are spoiled for choice in the next month because they all just look really good.
Yeah, I talked to someone who's previewing Death's Door and just couldn't stop gushing over it. So, Gaz, you play games like this? These little teeny tiny AA, single A games?
I actually... So we funny enough, which show was it, Asa? I think it was the indie coverage, and all these games were shown off. Death's Door looks really cool. I didn't know it was coming out tomorrow, but I'm in the middle of a house move, so I'm practically living under a rock. But this, I really like that. The game looks like super tough. So that lady who plays an easy, you're gonna have a hard time. And you better hope there's an easy. I'm not. This is so mean.
The person I talked to said it sort of like Dark Souls, but it's not as punishing or it's not as challenging. Like I played Tunic was another one. I'm seeing Lone Star in the chat mentioning Tunic last night. Replaced. There's all these little indie games. Did you guys know that Xbox is going to have more games this holiday than their competition, their direct competition, which might be PlayStation? That's crazy. Let me talk about the bigger games that are coming, that are more AAA, bro. You know, big shot games.
Go for it.
Apparently, Exomecha is still on the menu for Xbox in August, which is weird because they haven't.
AAA game.
No. But it looks AAA, right? That's why I was doing it looks like it has the production values.
Yeah.
It looks shiny and runs at a high frame rate, and it's got like the really detailed character models. It looks photorealistic, whatever. But Exomecha is made by a small team. That's a free-to-play multiplayer shooter where you're basically it's like Dinobots versus Transformers or something. That looks kind of cool.
Be rubbish. I think it's going to be a rubbish game. Do you know why? Because they've not said much about that game, and it's coming out soon. Supposedly, Telltale aside, and Asa made a good point that I haven't heard anyone say. How do you control? Have you seen any gameplay footage of them controlling the actual mechs? Because I haven't, and I don't know if that's going to be in there. I hope Exomecha
Do you think the mechs are like AI controlled? They're just on the battlefield and they're stopping you from getting your kill streak going?
I think you do control them, but it raises a little warning flag that they've not shown what that experience is.
Yeah, so maybe they do, but that might be quite rubbish. Because the movement. So the reason why I have some skepticism about that is if you watch the movement,
that melee,
yeah, the melee and the spin, it all seemed really scripted, and I think I've seen a repetition of that in multiple trailers. Forgive me, it's been a while since I've seen that, and that to me I was like, this is where Ace is coming from. I don't know. I'll see that, but I don't want it to be bad. Devs, if you're Exomecha, I would love to do it. I've got a thumbnail ready to preview that game because I love that, the look of it. But whether or not it's going to be good, I have a feeling it's going to be bad. I may be wrong, guys. If I'm wrong, just come at me.
You're so negative, but the chat's also kind of echoing what I'm about to say. But Crossfire X and Randall Thor 19, shout out to him. I'll put him in a chokehold when we meet at E3 someday. But he said, love the guy. But he goes, who cares about Crossfire X, Colt? Nobody cares about Crossfire X. Oh, I beg to differ. It is made by the one and only Remedy doing the single-player campaign. And if you like high production value, single-player, first-person shooter campaigns, which we've played them quite a bit, that could be great. It's also got the Counter-Strike multiplayer type thing that's really huge over in South Korea. I think they're a South Korean developer. So there's like a billion people playing Crossfire X right now on its old version. It's getting pushed up to package into this. So Crossfire X is coming. They just talked about it recently on social media. What's another big game that's coming, Gaz or Asa? Do you remember what else is coming to Xbox? There's one I'm missing.
Are you talking about
What's the Horizon?
You forgot about Forza Horizon 5. What's wrong with you? You fraud.
Yeah. There's big games. There's a lot of big shooters. There's another, what was the other shooter I was thinking of? I don't know. I thought I should have wrote it down.
Do we need to sing it?
What's that?
Do the Halo theme song. Do the Halo theme song, Gaz. I'm not singing.
Sing songs so I can remember it? Nah, that doesn't work for me.
This is sacrilege. Listen. When we were singing it, everyone has to be silent, okay? You're supposed to do it with me.
No, I'm not doing that. I just put your link in the chat for people who want to follow you. You're such a goof.
Okay, I got that.
What I have learned is Gaz is not a top tier vocalist, but he makes up for it in all of his personality. Let's see. We've got Spooky Sprocket said, hello from Australia, Colt, Gaz, and Asa. Just wanted to wish you three an awesome show. Appreciate you all. Gaz needs edible sauce underwear. Laugh out loud. Game on. Spooky Sprocket's hilarious. Here's the other one. That's the one I was. Gosh, thank goodness to Brandon. I totally spaced it, but this is the other shooter I was talking about. He said, is Bright Memory Infinite still a 2021 game? And yes, that's the other one that was just talked about last week on social media. Bright Memory Infinite is still coming to Xbox as an exclusive, but they already had the demo, which was like a 45-minute playthrough, which didn't do very well. Do you guys remember Bright Memory Infinite?
Sure. The problem with that one, the reason that my enthusiasm has just tanked on it. So the Bright Memory, it was just called Bright Memory, wasn't it? The one that they released at the launch of the console,
yes.
With its Series X enhancements that got people interested, and then nobody spoke about it after having actually sampled it. But everybody had this like slim hope that actually the full game, Bright Memory Infinite, would change their perspective on that completely, and it would be something else. But they very recently, within the last week or two, said that Bright Memory Infinite is a free upgrade if you've got Bright Memory, which was, I think, £7.19 when it came out. As much as I say that I want flexibility in pricing, if you're pricing it down there, I'm not sure what it is that you're selling. So I've not got high hopes for that one.
It's a one-man developer team who's brought on a few people to help him build the game, but the majority of the work has been done by one Chinese developer. I'm pretty sure it's a Chinese developer. So they've made some improvements. The game got like a 58 meta, the demo, which should not have been... In my opinion, that game should have been given free to download to anybody who bought a Series X or S. I don't know why they charge for that. It's not a good look, and I paid $12 US for it, I think, and I bought it on Steam for $8, and then I bought it for 10 or 12 on the Xbox Series X, and it looked identical for my PC, and still the same game. It feels really dated, but what they've shown recently on YouTube about a week and a half ago looks really good. So I don't know. We'll see what's going on.
Yeah,
with that.
I don't think that'll be good. Again, echoing Ace's sentiment. You didn't say that explicitly, but you wanted to.
Captain Duffy says, have you guys heard that Battlefield 2042 is not going to have an option to crossplay only with console? Forced crossplay with PC sucks. What do you guys think? Let's start with Gaz. What do you think about being forced to play with those PC elitists?
Isn't that information wrong? I thought you had an option to not play with PC. Ace.
You've done Gaz did a comprehensive video about 2 weeks ago about what Battlefield 2042 offers. Check that out when you go to his channel. But what do you know? What's the latest? What do you know about that?
So I may be wrong. Who did the super chat? I don't know if they had that option. I read it clearly. I didn't do it right, but I thought that they would say, because my video preceded this new set of information. My video that no one watched. Thanks for that. But it was a bit late. The algorithm is a cruel, harsh mistress. But
just change the title to like amazing, incredible. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No, you can. I'm reading it here. PC and console players will be able to opt out of playing with each other. So you have that option. So it's the opposite of that. So yeah, no, it's good.
Okay.
I'm glad they have crossplay. They need it.
One more classic. What's that?
I was just going to say, I do wonder if you disable crossplay and you're trying to fill a server with 128 players. I know there's bots in there as well, but
are you guys okay with the bots being on the field?
No, I hate
Gaz isn't. Asa, are you okay with the bots?
The fact that they said there's going to be bots in pretty much every game, no. I understand the need for them because you don't want to sit there for like 45 minutes waiting for a 128 player game to fill up. But
it's like a supplement. It's a supplement for when the servers aren't filling up quickly.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that, but I'm not like Gaz. Gaz, like, he prints out his own certificates when his kill to death ratio is high. He prints those out and pins them up on his parents' refrigerator. And they're like, get these out of here.
He sends like he's constantly sending these screenshots of like how he performed in Apex Legends, and he'll do it even when they don't win.
And you're like, don't care.
You lost.
Don't care. Don't care.
It's because I was like rubbish teammates, and I'm showing my damage is like 3,000. My teammates have 3. It's like, why? Why do I always get just? It's
All
not
I
that
saw was
amazing.
the loss.
Yeah.
I've been in party chat when Gaz is playing Apex, and it sounds like he's furiously writing an angry email to an associate at his job, and I'm like, "Are you working right now?" And he's like, "No, man, I'm playing Apex."
I received those emails.
Oh man.
Danta Taku says, let me get this one real quick. Danta Taku says, classic turn-based RPG fans, don't sleep on Chris Tales, which launches in Game Pass tonight or / tomorrow. Is that a JRPG game, Chris Tales? I think I remember seeing that.
I don't think it is, but it's styled after. I don't think it actually comes from Japan. But... No.
Oh, okay.
Shout out to Randall Thor 19 in the chat. I'm going to put him in a chokehold the day I get to meet him. But yeah, I was saying Rand and I were talking. Well, I can't remember what I said. We were arguing about.
You're gonna choke him. He just recovered from pneumonia. The first thing you do is choke him.
Well, I mean, it'll make. I'm not very strong. It's my only fighting chance is to get Rand when he's not at his 100%. Rand's amazing. Rand is amazing. I talk to him every day. Rand's got an incredible channel, and he does a podcast with Jez Gordon. So people love Randall Thor. He's amazing.
Randall.
Let's talk real quick. This show's gone a little long, but we have to talk about the blessed Game Gear Steam Deck. I said it right. Just announced today that it is not compatible with 4 or 5 of the biggest games online. Let me read them. Destiny 2, Apex Legends, PUBG, and Rainbow Six Siege are not compatible right now with the Steam Deck at this point. Asa, do you know why?
Yeah. It's the anti-cheat software, but anybody that was thinking of playing competitively with a Stream Deck needs to reevaluate. Right.
Yeah.
I said Stream Deck. Competitively with a Stream Deck whilst using their Steam Deck. I was talking about both devices. No, I
Oh,
was
yeah,
listening
of
on that. I
course.
say it wrong.
You never make mistakes. Yeah.
Have you seen the demo footage that they have where they're aiming with the gyroscope stuff to fine tune it? Like, if you're trying to do that in a game like Apex Legends,
You're not going to get
reassess.
very far.
Don't go there. The Steam Deck in general, a lot of people have asked me, like, have I managed to get one pre-ordered? Do you want one? Are you getting one? Just assuming, because I like things and I try and get most things that play games, right? That's my thing. It's what I do. I buy stuff that plays games. And the Steam Deck for me is like, I don't play games away from a screen, whether it be a monitor or a TV. I'm not a portable gamer, and I've already got a PC. So the Steam Deck doesn't offer me personally anything to do that with. I can see why people love it. I can see the appeal of it. I don't have one pre-ordered. But to your question, though, yeah, anybody trying to play those anti-cheat games, the only one that I can see people being disappointed with is Destiny 2, because that's a grind game. So I can see why you might want to use your Steam Deck to go out and about and like get whatever light level shards, resources. I don't really know what's going on in Destiny 2 at the moment, but I can see that people might have had their eyes on the device for that particular game. The other three, you'd be making a mistake.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything because everything you said I would have totally repeated. So that's that. I'm there with on the take. But Gaz is different. Gaz pre-ordered himself a Steam Deck. That name's just not going to work for me. I'm never going to get used to that. Gaz, tell us why you wasted a few $100s and let's get into it. No, I
bought a Steam Deck and a Stream Deck at the same time, so imagine how confusing that was. But it wasn't, because trying to buy a Steam Deck was akin to getting a peptic ulcer. So stressful, man. But it speaks to the popularity of it, because I was F5ing hard, and I think it's going to be huge. I think it's going to be phenomenal. A lot of people say it's going to fall in the gimmick category, but not for me. For someone like, played Destiny 2 is a shame. That would be a perfect game for me to play.
It doesn't look particularly sexy, but I still think it's a pretty cool piece of kit. Like, what's your opinion
like
of the
gear? Yeah, I'm old school, so I brought up with the Game Gear, and I like that. So I like that kind of chunky feel of it. But playing something like Disco Elysium, I've always said, oh man, I bought that game. It's on my Steam library, and being able to play Disco Elysium while I'm in bed and just playing that would be perfect. I don't want to sit there slouched over a PC. I bought it on PC, and I like the game, but I'm different to Asa in that regard. A lot of games I like to just lay down and chill. That's why I played Hades. I loved it. I didn't sleep. I was just laying in bed playing that. And for me, I think it's going to be incredible. Assuming, and I have a lot of faith in Gabe Newell that the device will operate really well. If you watch the interview with Gabe Newell, he instilled confidence in it because he doesn't BS. He's not super. Whilst he's trying to he is doing PR. He did it in a way that's very sincere, and he's like, look man, the price point was a bit of pill to swallow for us, but we had to hit the balance because the quality's there. People, when they hold this is what he paraphrasing here, saying that when they had a go at the Steam Deck, then they would have to feel like everything works amazingly well as intended. And he said it in such a way that I'm like, I've got confidence in this. I wasn't going to get that. I thought when I saw Disco Elysium retweet with the little eye emoji that Steam Deck is out, that's when I realized, oh my god, I can play this. Then I got so many ideas. I cheaped out. I bought the 256 gig one, and I kind of regret that. But the good thing about that is that comes out. So some people are getting a Q1 2022, others getting Q2. So I'm a bit lucky. I got it in Q1. The 256 is easier to get,
or so you think. Like right now, they're saying there could be some slight delays. Steam does a really good job of making sure you don't just make a new account and just go scalp them. Nick's in the chat says, quote, I like that chunky feel of it, end quote. Gas 2021. That's great. Yeah. So I don't know.
I think it's gonna be
funny.
Big.
I mean, don't tell people not to buy something, but I just don't think it'll work for me. If I'm out and around, I'm not playing a game because I'm either driving or I don't know. I'm at the grocery store, so I'm not playing games. But you guys, you take a commute to work. Like you'll take a train to work sometimes, right? You call it the tube, right? So you could essentially play it, and you don't have to worry about a Wi-Fi signal because it's natively playing. So
I just have to worry about getting stabbed and have my Steam Deck stolen. But other than that, it's fine. Yeah, it's good.
As we wrap up, I want to ask you two to kind of point that Steam Deck toward full steam ahead toward what does that do for Xbox? Like, is this really something that an Xbox gamer could take advantage of and truly enjoy as someone who just owns Xbox games? Asa, take that one for us. Have you kind of looked into the?
I know we're wrapping up, but did you see about 2 or 3 days prior to the Steam Deck announcement? Did you hear Phil Spencer's prophecy on it? He was on.
No, give it the mouth.
Okay, it's really specific, and it made you wonder a little bit if he knew what was coming. But Phil Spencer was on Kind of Funny, and they asked him. He was talking about Nintendo, and he just went on this really specifically worded Nintendo are the only company on the whole planet that can make a portable device for gaming that doesn't run on iOS, doesn't run on Android, and can't make phone calls, and still have success with it. And he said this 2 or 3 days before the announcement of the Steam Deck, and it was like, "Ooh, is there some beef here?"
Yeah, and then he tweeted saying, "Congratulations, Valve," or something.
Could it be that Phil Spencer didn't know that this thing was coming? I don't know. He's so positive and so genuine that I'm sure this was a mistake, and he probably saw the announcement and was like, "Oh,
oh my gosh!" I mean, I can't imagine him not having some type of heads up.
Yeah,
because it seems like because Steam has said you could wipe the Steam OS and put Windows and then get Game Pass PC. Like, he'd have to know this was coming. Like, was he taking a shot knowing that they can't get Game Pass or Nintendo's not budging on getting Game Pass on their device? But Phil's like, well, I know Steam Deck's going to do it, so I'm going to take this. Because Phil has taken a couple shots here and there as he's kind of become more competitive in the past couple of years. So maybe that was a slight to the Nintendo Switch. He said, what do you think?
You know, I don't want to stir the pot. I just want to drop a little spice in there and walk off. Gaz, what do you think?
Oh wow, you're facilitating sauce creation there. Spices are the key ingredient of the sauce.
I give Gaz full authority to take the pot and just pour it over on the floor. Yeah, go for it.
You're gonna regret this one. Nah, it's all guess part. Asa is the only one I've ever seen pick that up really well, and I find it hard to believe that Phil wouldn't know about it because of the reasons you mentioned, Cole. But at the same time, he may have made that innocently because just complete, in just maybe a lapse in memory. I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know the answer to that. But
the only thing I don't like was the phone calls comment, but the rest of it rings true, right? Because the Steam you can't make phone calls on the Steam Deck.
Yeah. No,
I hate that word, that name. I hate it.
but I hate the word as well. But the naming of it. But Ace is right. That's where the Steam Deck falls into that category. You have to double think. It's a stupid name, man. You think Xbox Series naming convention is stupid? I've got Steam Deck and Steam Deck. I think that's stupid. You
almost said Steam Deck. Steam Deck. What is the deck? I mean, we could talk about it all day, but I don't know. Maybe it can become an accompanying piece for Xbox. We'll yet to see if people will really use it, but yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much that covers everything. You guys are amazing. This is the XNC podcast.
Can I just? I know you're wrapping up, but I want to loop back to your actual question because I took a little detour around there. Your actual question was what it could mean for Xbox, right? Actually, if you'd asked me a month or two ago about Xbox and Steam in general, I would have said, of course, Cole, Xbox Game Pass is coming to Steam. Like, it's inevitable. You've already got EA Play on there, so all the groundwork has been laid. I don't know if this is pushing it closer or further away from that. I don't know if maybe some of this, this device is going to flop is maybe because maybe that's not going to happen anymore. Maybe it was on the table and maybe now it's not.
I think it was
because of the handheld.
No, not because of the handheld, but Phil might not be so warm on the handheld because Game Pass might not be going to Steam anymore. So if you look at EA Play being on there, it is only one version of EA Play. It's not the premium version. Sure. So maybe the terms just weren't quite favorable. So now I'm less sure of Game Pass coming to Steam. The device is obviously, there's a whole load of Xbox, from Twitter and the rest of it, from looking at the community, there's a whole load of people that have seen that device and said, yes, I'm playing Game Pass. And yes, they will find a way to. You can install Windows and you can do that. So as a device for Game Pass, there's definitely an appeal there.
Why do you need Game Pass on Steam, though? I don't see any reason for it to be there. What is the advantage of having it on Steam? If you're a PC player, And I've been a PC player for a long time, and I don't as often, but I still have all of the storefronts installed on. I just launch whichever one, and I link most of my games into Steam. So why do you need Game Pass integrated into Steam?
For the same reason that Microsoft sell games on Steam. There are a lot of PC gamers that will not touch Microsoft Store. There are a lot of PC gamers that will. The same reason that EA put EA Play on Steam. There's a lot of gamers that just won't leave that storefront.
Like they refuse to deal with the Windows Store for gaming, which has been really shoddy. Back when I was playing a lot on PC in 2016 and 2017, yeah, it was not. it had problems. So, and they're working on that. But
and you've seen how well Microsoft's games do on Steam anyway, haven't you? Like every month we get these top 10 games, and Microsoft's games are ranking high. So people are very willing to buy Xbox games on Steam.
Interesting. I wonder if they would still consider it part of Xbox, but as long as it works within Steam. Steam is probably my favorite place to be on PC for gaming. But yeah, I don't know. A lot of people are super excited about what Xbox is doing. So there's a bunch of games coming this year. Finally, games on Xbox and exclusive. Some of the people aren't ready for that. But this has been the XNC podcast. And just so you guys know, Gaz and Asa, it is... Let me check my phone. I have dual time zones.
3 a.m.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So big shout out to Gaz and Asa for sitting here from 1 to 3 a.m. on their free time to talk about ridiculous topics about gaming, but they are amazing. Let's see if I still have this on my clipboard. This is a link to their channel. Go subscribe. They put out a weekly podcast in the middle of Saturday if you're in North America. They have amazing guests. They have great discourse on there. Asa does Technalysis, where he breaks down how the games are running. They talk about the games that are coming, and then Gaz also has one of their favorite highlights of the things they do. He does the sauce, where he really gets in and passionate about a certain subject that's ever coming up for the week. He goes crazy. Just go check out all their content. They've got a site, Game On Daily, on the website, where they just aggregate news. So give these guys a great shot. Give them a shout out. Talk about them. Share their stuff. Gaz, thank you for being on the show. Tell people where they can find you by name, other than all the places I just said. Where are you at?
I'm on Twitter as Gaz on Daily. Our YouTube channel is Game On Daily, one word. GameOnDaily.com is the source, and I'm on OnlyFans as well. Thank you so much for having me and Asa. I'm going to repeat the same thing, because me and Asa are the co-founders and co-hosts of the shows, and Mia and him are very different personalities, but also very similar in many regards, because we share our love for you, Colt, for giving us the opportunity to be on this show. Thank you so much. I don't feel like it's 3 a.m. because it's always like talking to one of my best friends. I wish that's exactly
oh, thanks, man.
And thank you for the community. I love your chat. Everyone, the community, you guys rule. I was going to say suck for some reason. No, you guys rule. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. Source video has been almost a month that hasn't come out, but there's a reason why. I'm going a bit crazy with the next one. There'll be more content coming in. House move. I'm going to make some memes. But yeah, thank you so much. Love you.
Oh, yeah, you're the best. That's Gaz from Game On Daily. Asa, what makes you famous? Tell them where to find you.
I'm not famous yet, Cole. I'm working on it. Yeah, it's 3 a.m. here, but it's too hot to sleep anyway. And it's been an absolute pleasure and privilege to come on XNC. So thank you for the invitation. And thank you to everybody in chat. It's been great. The conversation has been really good, really positive in there. I think your Be Nice motto is paying off, because that's a great chat. You can find me as Asa_Game On Daily just about everywhere. That's Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. I've got channels there. You can find me on Xbox as Game On Space Asa.
Yep.
That's it.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thanks for the over 900 people that came out live to listen to us, and all the people in the chat. It's been a really great time. In about an hour, this show will be up on podcast for audio on demand and on demand on YouTube. So thanks for all your support. Have a good week. I'll see you guys soon. Hopefully I'll see you for a video here in a few days as I take a deep breath and get into the next chunk of news. So thank you so much for showing up to the show. guys, wave goodbye to the audience. They're amazing. Them hanging out and chatting with us and making us laugh. All you guys, don't wave. You know what? Fine. Yeah, whatever.
I hate that more.
And he did it anyway. Yeah, thanks, guys. It's been a great show. Thanks for the chat. You guys have a good night, and be nice.